Hi, I'm Phil Conrad, and I'm here with John Cutler, and we're going to walk you through uh, the user story mapping for the problem that you see up here on the screen, which is building a web app that will allow you to select one Winter 19 Gen Ed course, GE course, that meets as many of your unmet COE GEs as possible. So as you are aware, in the College of Engineering, you have to take GEs in areas D, E, F, and G, certain number in each one. You also have to satisfy the ethnicity requirement, the writing requirement, the American history and institutions requirement, etc., etc. It's nice if you're going to take a GE to satisfy as many requirements with one GE as possible. But that can be kind of hard to figure out. So we're going to build a web app that helps you do that. And John and I are going to walk through applying the user story mapping process to this problem so that you can get an idea of how you can apply the same process to the web apps that you're building for Computer Science 56. All right, so let's take a look at this. The first thing is that we realize this problem of planning your GE is really part of a bigger problem, which is the problem of planning your whole degree program. If we were really to take on the whole big thing, we would help you with this web app to plan out your entire degree program quarter by quarter, all the way to graduation, efficiently and according to your preferences. That's a much bigger thing than we want to take on in a small project to get started. But that is the larger context of the problem.
If we kept going for a couple years.
Yeah, if we kept going for a couple years, and maybe the small thing that we're going to build may eventually turn into that. But it's probably better for us to build something small and get some success than to try to take on this huge thing all at once.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 4 weeks. I've got to focus. So I'm going to take on this smaller project. What's the value exchange in this app? Well, I know that the user will be satisfied if the user has selected a GE and they're happy and they're confident with the one they chose. We're focusing on kind of a use case where the user is basically a UCSB student that's planning their Winter 19 schedule. They're going to take a bunch of classes for their major. We're assuming, just to keep things simple, College of Engineering major. And they only have room for one GE, so they want to tick off as many of the boxes as possible. So our first instincts might be, in building an app like this, a GE selector, to cover all of the GE programs for both Letters in Science and College of Engineering, and all the major requirements, maybe day and time preferences, maybe build something that will scrape your transcript to figure out which GEs have you already satisfied.
Our instinct is to go big, because we want to make it great.
That's right. But again, we want to focus so we can actually deliver something and get some experience, right? At 4 weeks, I'd really like to have something I can test very quickly and put in the hands of users and see if they can see what they think of it, right? So, on a high level, without talking about solutions or implementation, this is basically the story we have. I have to know the requirements. So I have to know what are the requirements we have to meet. So in the simplest case, maybe I focus on just one requirement, like the ethnicity requirement or the writing requirement. In the bigger picture, I need to know, okay, the D, E, F, and G, how many in each category, and what are the courses that are acceptable for each of those. So I have to know the requirements.
You'll always need to know the requirements.
Exactly. Yeah. I need to compare my own progress against those requirements. So the courses that I've already taken, look and see which of these have I met, which have I not met. I need to see what classes meet those requirements that are actually being offered in a particular quarter. And then I want to try to make the best decision I can, and maybe whatever process I have, if it's an app or something, might help me sort and filter, and then finally I'll make my decision. Okay, so that's kind of at a high level what our user story is from beginning to end. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and at the end, my need has been met. So what we're going to do is we're going to make cards for each of these, each of the items. If I go back a slide for a moment, each of these bullet points, and these actually combined these last two, try to make the decision and make my decision into one. Each of those becomes a card. So we have know the requirements, compare my GE progress against the degree requirements, see the classes that meet the requirements, and support the decision making. And those cards become column headings. This is the user story mapping process. And John, who's the writer that sort of introduced this user story mapping process?
So it's a longtime product manager, Jeff Patton.
Jeff Patton.
Yeah.
So Jeff Patton has kind of promoted this particular way of planning out a product. These column headings are the kind of the stages in the story. And the next thing we're going to do is think about the thinnest slice that we could deliver horizontally across these 4 columns that allows the user to meet some need. And we're saying that need is a marginally better GE decision than they would have made if we didn't give them this tool, right? So the first thing we do is we say, all right, in this first column, maybe our web app is going to let the user see a list of the requirements for the College of Engineering GEs. In a later stage, maybe in a later slice, we might allow them to do LNS as well, but right now we're focusing just on COE. Then maybe we're going to have them input what are the categories of GEs that they still need to meet. Like, do they still need an area D? Do they need an E, an F, a G?
So that seems like we can go thinner.
Yeah, we can go thinner than that, right? so rather than all of this,
it sounds like a lot.
That sounds like a lot, right? So if we went thinner, let's focus on just one category, the ethnicity requirement. And then at a later stage, we can allow the user to specify just one more category, writing, ethnicity, or maybe they need both.
Yep.
And then we can help them find the courses that are the twofers, that both are writing courses and ethnicity courses. And then right between here and here, there should be kind of a ... But eventually we'll allow any combination of GE requirements, and we'll get there a little bit at a time.
And in this case, hard coding, you do that as an intermediary step to kind of check that you're on the right track.
Exactly.
We know we want the user to be able to input things in the future, but the input mechanism might be a little bit more complex than what we want to tackle at first, so we're just going to hard code.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so now we think we've got a thin slice. Let's fill in the other parts of the slice. And by other parts of the slice, what we mean is we have nothing in this column and nothing in this column for this top slice here.
So if we deliver that, it wouldn't actually be valuable.
That's right. Anyone, right? That's right. It's to deliver value, you've got to go all the way from the left all the way to the right.
Yep.
Right? And that is kind of the idea, is you want these column headings, if I understand the process right, John, we want them to go from left to right in chronological order. You start here, then this happens, and then this last one is the one where the user says, aha, I got my need met, I got my goal has been achieved, my desire has been fulfilled.
Yep.
Okay, so what do we need? Once we see a list of the ethnicity requirements and we realize, oh gosh, I need the ethnicity course, we're going to list all of the ethnicity courses that are offered this quarter, and at this point, that's all. Later on, when we have multiple things, we might need to do some filtering or sorting, but for right now, just a list of the courses offered this quarter, that's good enough. So this is our thin slice. Well, that's pretty minimal. So
you know you're actually on the right track if you say that's way too minimal. So we're probably doing well.
We're doing well. But just to make sure that we know where we would go next, let's at least take a look at what the next slice would be.
Yep. And you actually want to do this. You never want to just stick with one slice.
Right.
Because you want to let these future slices kind of ground you in the direction where you're going. So you do want to do a second slice.
So here's the slice that we would build second, right? In the second iteration, we would see a list, not in the first slice, we're just looking at the ethnicity requirements. In the second one, we want to be able to see a list of the writing requirements and or the ethnicity requirements. We want to allow the user to tell us, oh, I need the writing course, or I need the ethnicity course, or I really need both of them. We want to be able to list all of the courses that meet either the ethnicity requirement or the writing requirement, or both of them from this quarter. And then this is where we're going to add some decision-making support. We want to be able to sort these, let's say in descending order by the number of requirements met. So the so-called twofer is the course that is both a writing course and an ethnicity course. We want to list all those courses first before we list the ones that only meet the ethnicity requirement or only meet the writing requirement. And as we add more possibilities for these GEs, we might add more kinds of ways of sorting and slicing and filtering the list that will help our user make their decision.
And then just to clarify too, this is, you kind of need to know your GE progress at this point. Like we haven't gotten, that's why you mentioned scraping transcripts or things in the future. That's all future stuff. We need, we need the plumbing in place for this.
Right. So for now, the user still has to kind of do the work of looking at their own transcript on Gold and figuring out which requirements they still need. Fortunately, I think that Gold has a feature for that. So I think you can do a degree progress check and it will tell you what you still need. We might not need to build, we certainly don't have to build that right now. We might not ever need to build that. But if we build it, it's way down the road.
Yep. And I would say as a side point for that, if you show this to members of your team and they keep saying, but how are we going to find the progress? You might want to just add a card there to remind the team, manually go and check your progress yourself. But that's a side point there.
And we might even add in, at some point, some instructions in the web app to say, if you're not sure how to check your progress, click here, and then we just have a static web page that walks people through.
So minimally viable is just some text instructions that say how you would do that.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. All right. So let's make some user stories.